Many home gardeners feel stuck between wanting fresh, healthy food and having very little time, space, or energy to grow it. Busy schedules, small backyards, and even apartment living can make gardening feel unrealistic. At the same time, we've slowly drifted away from plants that once played a simple but important role in everyday meals. These weren't exotic crops or trendy superfoods you see on social media. They were dependable, low-maintenance plants that grew easily and provided steady nutrition. As gardening became more commercial and focused on high-yield or decorative varieties, many of these practical food plants faded from memory. What used to grow naturally near the kitchen door is now often forgotten. If you stay until the end, you'll see how all 10 of these plants can fit into a peaceful, sustainable gardening routine that supports both your kitchen and your schedule. If you enjoy relaxed, practical gardening tips that actually make sense for real life, make sure to subscribe and keep growing with us. 10 forgotten protein superfood plants making a comeback in home gardens. 1. Purslane, the Overlook backyard green that fed families quietly. Purslane once grew freely in home yards, along garden paths, and even between cracks in the driveway. Many families used it as part of their daily meals without ever thinking about planting it on purpose. It simply showed up and did its thing. Over time, though, it was labeled as a weed and pulled out without a second thought. As lawns became more controlled and gardens more curated, Purslane slowly disappeared from view. What used to be seen as a helpful, edible plant was suddenly treated like an unwanted guest. That shift caused many people to overlook a food source that had quietly supported households for generations. Now, gardeners are starting to see purslane differently. Instead of fighting it, they're welcoming it back. One of the biggest reasons is how incredibly easy it is to grow. Purslane thrives in dry soil, handles heat like a champ, and doesn't need constant watering or special care. It grows well in tight spaces, raised beds, and even small containers, making it perfect for kitchen gardens in urban homes or apartments. If you're looking for something low maintenance that still gives you a steady harvest, Purslane checks all the boxes. It's practical, efficient, and surprisingly productive. Purslane is also a great example of sustainable food habits rooted in simple observation. Sometimes the most useful plants are the ones already growing around us. Its resilience makes it ideal for low-effort backyard food growing, especially for beginners who don't want complicated routines. Many people are genuinely surprised once they realize how versatile and useful it can be in everyday cooking. A simple tip to keep it at its best: harvest the young stems regularly. Frequent picking encourages tender growth and keeps the plant producing longer. With just a little attention, Purslane can easily become one of the most reliable plants in your garden. 2. Chaya, the traditional leafy shrub once grown near every kitchen. Chaya was traditionally planted close to homes so families could harvest it anytime they needed fresh greens. It became a backyard favorite because it produced leaves consistently throughout the year without demanding much attention. In many communities, having chaya near the kitchen door meant there was always something nutritious ready to cook. However, as cities expanded and people moved into smaller urban spaces, the plant slowly faded from everyday use. Limited yard space and changing food habits pushed it aside, and over time fewer households continued the tradition of growing it. Today, chaya is making a steady comeback, and for good reason. Gardeners are rediscovering how tough and reliable this plant really is. It thrives in warm climates and doesn't require constant watering or complicated care routines. Even during dry periods, chaya holds up better than many other leafy greens. It responds well to pruning, and regular trimming actually helps the plant grow fuller and stronger. Because of its adaptability, it works well in small gardens, raised beds, or even larger containers when managed properly. Many home gardeners appreciate Chaya for its long-term productivity. Once established, it keeps producing leaves for years, making it a dependable source of fresh greens. For anyone looking to grow food with minimal effort and consistent results, Chaya is a smart choice. It's practical, resilient, and rewarding for patient gardeners who think long-term. Simple tip: keep the plant trimmed regularly to encourage fresh, healthy leaf growth and to maintain a manageable size in your garden. 3. Pigeon peas, the quiet garden companion that supported both soil and food. Pigeon peas were once commonly planted alongside other crops in traditional farming systems. Farmers valued them not only as a reliable food source, but also as a natural way to improve soil health. Because pigeon peas are legumes, they help add nitrogen back into the soil, which supports the growth of nearby plants. As large-scale monoculture farming became more popular, diverse planting systems were gradually replaced with single-crop fields. This shift made crops like pigeon peas less visible in commercial agriculture. However, their benefits never disappeared. They were simply overlooked for a while. Today, pigeon peas are making a comeback, especially among home gardeners who want practical, low-maintenance plants. One of their biggest strengths is their ability to tolerate dry conditions and grow in poor soil. Once established, the plant requires very little attention compared to many common garden vegetables. That makes it a great choice for backyard food production, particularly in areas with hot summers or limited rainfall. Gardeners also like that pigeon peas grow steadily and consistently without demanding constant care. They fit naturally into mixed planting systems where different crops support each other. For anyone building a sustainable kitchen garden, pigeon peas are a smart addition. They work well as part of a diverse layout and can even serve as a light windbreak for more delicate plants. A simple tip: plant pigeon peas near the borders of your garden to help reduce wind stress on nearby crops. With minimal effort, you gain food, soil improvement, and added structure in your garden. It's a practical, resilient plant that deserves a second look in modern home growing. 4. Lamb's quarters, the forgotten leafy green that grew without invitation. Lamb's quarters used to grow naturally around homes, gardens, and open fields, and people understood its value, especially during uncertain seasons when food choices were limited. It wasn't planted on purpose most of the time. It simply showed up and did its job. Families harvested it as a reliable leafy green that required no special care. Over the years, however, modern gardening habits changed. Anything that wasn't intentionally planted started to be labeled a weed. Lamb's quarters slowly lost its reputation as a helpful food source and was pulled out without much thought. Now, many gardeners are taking a second look and realizing this plant deserves more credit. Lamb's quarters grows easily without fertilizer, heavy watering, or constant attention. It adapts well to small backyards, raised beds, and even disturbed soil where other vegetables struggle. That kind of resilience makes it stand out. It's one of the toughest forgotten vegetables you'll find. Home gardeners are often surprised by how productive it can be, producing generous harvests from plants that basically take care of themselves. In a time when people are looking for low maintenance and sustainable options, this plant fits right in. There's also something practical to learn from its comeback. Not every useful plant needs to be carefully planned or purchased from a store. Sometimes the most productive greens are already growing nearby. If you decide to try it, here's a simple tip: pick the leaves before the plant starts flowering. The texture is better, more tender, and easier to cook. Lamb's quarters is a reminder that gardening doesn't always have to be complicated. Sometimes the best results come from recognizing the value of what's already there. 5. Cowpeas, the heat-loving garden plant that never asked for much. Cowpeas were once a regular feature in home gardens across warm regions. Families relied on them because both the tender leaves and the young pods could be harvested for daily meals. They were practical, easy to cook, and dependable through long, hot seasons. As agriculture shifted toward large-scale production and grocery store convenience, cowpeas slowly faded from backyard gardens. Many gardeners turned to more commercial vegetable varieties, and cowpeas received less attention. But trends in home gardening are changing again. More people are looking for crops that are productive, low maintenance, and useful in small spaces, and cowpeas are starting to regain their place. Today, gardeners appreciate cowpeas for their resilience. They grow well in containers, raised beds, and compact backyard plots, making them ideal for urban and suburban homes. Cowpeas tolerate high heat better than many common vegetables and can handle uneven watering without failing. This makes them a reliable option during hot summers when other plants struggle. Their steady growth also helps build confidence for beginners who want visible results without constant care. In mixed kitchen gardens, cowpeas pair well with other seasonal vegetables and contribute to a more balanced and sustainable growing system. Beyond their toughness, cowpeas support practical, sustainable food habits. They produce generous harvests over time rather than all at once, allowing families to pick what they need regularly. Their ability to thrive in challenging conditions means fewer resources are required to keep them healthy. For gardeners looking to maximize limited space, a simple trellis is a smart addition. Guiding the vines upward saves valuable ground area and improves airflow around the plants. With minimal effort and thoughtful placement, cowpeas can once again become a dependable staple in modern home gardens. 6. Fenugreek, the misunderstood plant most people only know as a spice. Fenugreek leaves used to be a regular part of everyday meals in many households. Families picked the fresh green straight from their gardens and cooked them just like any other vegetable. Over time, however, fenugreek became widely recognized only for its seeds, which are often used as a spice. Because of this shift in focus, many people stopped growing the plant for its leaves. The leafy part slowly disappeared from home gardens, not because it lacked value, but simply due to a misunderstanding about its uses. Today, more gardeners are starting to realize that fenugreek is more than just a seed crop. It's also a fast, practical, and rewarding leafy green. One of the best things about growing fenugreek for its leaves is how simple it is. The plant grows quickly and does very well in small containers, making it perfect for balconies, patios, or even a sunny kitchen window. It doesn't require special tools or complicated techniques, which makes it ideal for beginners. Fenugreek fits easily into short planting cycles, so you don't have to wait long to see results. Within weeks, you can start harvesting fresh leaves. For new gardeners, that quick progress feels motivating and builds confidence. It's an easy win that keeps people interested in growing their own food. Beyond its practical benefits, fenugreek also supports a steady and enjoyable gardening routine. Because it grows fast and responds well to regular harvesting, it encourages consistent care without feeling overwhelming. A simple tip to keep plants productive is to harvest the leaves early and often. Regular picking helps the plant focus on producing new growth instead of slowing down. With minimal effort, you get a continuous supply of fresh greens. Fenugreek shows that home gardening doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes, a small container and a simple habit are all you need to get started. 7. Chickpea greens, the double-purpose plant most gardeners overlook. Chickpeas have long been appreciated for their protein-rich seeds, but historically, people also made good use of the plant's young greens. In many traditional food cultures, these tender leaves and shoots were harvested seasonally and added to everyday meals. Over time, the habit slowly disappeared as packaged and processed foods became more common and convenient. As grocery store options expanded, fewer home gardeners paid attention to the edible greens growing right in their own backyards. What was once normal kitchen practice gradually became a forgotten skill. Now, chickpea greens are making a comeback as more people look for practical ways to grow fresh food at home. The plant itself is compact and doesn't demand much space, which makes it ideal for raised beds, containers, or small backyard plots. It's also resilient and performs well in cooler weather, giving gardeners more flexibility throughout the growing season. One of the biggest advantages is that you can harvest some of the greens without sacrificing the main crop. When done carefully, light trimming won't interfere with pod production, allowing you to enjoy both fresh greens and mature chickpeas from the same plant. For anyone interested in backyard food growing, chickpeas offer impressive flexibility. You get multiple uses from a single crop, which makes your space more productive and efficient. If you decide to harvest the greens, keep it simple. Trim only the top portion of the plant. This encourages regrowth and keeps the plant healthy, so it can continue developing pods. With just a little attention, chickpeas can provide both nutritious greens and hardy seeds, making them a smart addition to any home garden. Eight. Winged beans, the multi-use climbing plant for small vertical gardens. Winged beans were once highly valued because almost every part of the plant can be eaten. The pods, leaves, flowers, seeds, and even the roots are useful in the kitchen. Despite these benefits, their unusual four-winged shape made them less popular over time. They didn't look like the typical vegetables people were used to seeing at the store, and that made them easy to overlook. For a while, they faded into the background of home gardening. Now, however, more gardeners are rediscovering just how practical and productive this plant can be, especially for those who want to grow more food in limited space. One of the biggest advantages of winged beans is how they grow. Instead of spreading across the ground and taking up valuable garden beds, they climb upward. With the right support, they grow vertically and make smart use of small spaces. They do especially well in warm climates where they receive plenty of sunlight. This growth habit makes them a strong choice for small kitchen gardens, patios, or backyard setups where every square foot matters. If you're trying to maximize output without expanding your garden, this plant gives you more harvest without demanding more room. Winged beans are also known for being resilient and reliable once established. They adapt well to warm conditions and continue producing when properly supported. Many gardeners appreciate their versatility in the kitchen and their steady growth in the garden. Because so much of the plant is edible, they naturally support sustainable backyard food growing and reduce waste. A simple tip to get started: install sturdy supports early. Giving the vines something to climb from the beginning helps guide healthy growth and makes harvesting easier later on. 9. Lentil greens, the quiet bonus harvest from a well-known plant. Lentils were traditionally used in more ways than one. Long before they were valued mainly for their dried seeds, people also harvested the young greens before the plant began producing pods. Over time, that practical knowledge faded as large-scale farming focused mostly on seed production. Today, however, home gardeners are starting to rediscover the benefits of lentil greens. The leaves are tender, mild in flavor, and can be used fresh in salads or lightly cooked like spinach. This renewed interest shows how older growing practices can still offer smart solutions for modern gardens. One reason lentils are making a comeback is how easy they are to grow. The plants stay compact and don't require much attention, which makes them a great option for beginners. They don't demand heavy feeding or constant watering, and they adjust well to different setups, including raised beds and containers. If you're working with limited space, lentils are a practical choice. Their manageable size also makes harvesting simple, whether you're collecting greens early on or letting the plant mature for seeds later in the season. Ten. Sweet potato leaves, the traditional green hidden behind famous root. Sweet potato leaves used to be a normal part of everyday meals. In many home gardens, people harvested both the roots and the greens without thinking twice. Over time, however, most of the attention shifted to the underground harvest, and the leaves were largely forgotten. Now, gardeners are starting to rediscover what they've been missing. Sweet potato vines are fast growers that don't demand much care, making them a practical choice for anyone who wants steady results without constant maintenance. As more people look for easy, productive crops, these leafy greens are finding their way back into raised beds, backyard plots, and even patio containers. One of the biggest advantages of growing sweet potatoes for their leaves is how low effort the plant really is. It spreads quickly, fills out garden space, and adapts well to different setups. Whether you're working with a large garden or just a few containers, the plant thrives with basic watering and sunlight. It's resilient, forgiving, and ideal for beginners who are still learning the rhythm of gardening. If you forget to water one day or don't have perfect soil, it usually keeps growing without complaint. That reliability makes it a confidence booster for new gardeners. Conclusion. Returning to quiet gardening wisdom. These plants remind us that growing food at home doesn't have to feel stressful or complicated. In the past, families relied on dependable crops that produced consistently without constant attention. They chose vegetables that could handle changing weather, limited space, and simple care routines. Many of these forgotten varieties lasted for generations, not because they were trendy, but because they worked. They were practical, reliable, and forgiving. Today, as more people return to home gardening, these plants offer the same steady benefits. They help us rebuild sustainable food habits without needing expensive tools or perfect conditions. They grow well in backyard beds, raised planters, and even small urban spaces. Most importantly, they remind us that resilience matters more than speed. A productive garden is not built overnight. It grows stronger over time when we focus on consistency, patience, and realistic expectations rather than chasing quick results.